Hello, Rob. Hello, how are you? Hello, Rob. Rob, am I audible? Hello.
Hi,
Hello.
Melinda. I think you just introduced me, but I couldn't hear anything. So I'm hoping that you hear me.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rob Salafia, CEO of Protagonist Consulting Group, executive leadership coach at MIT Sloan School of Management, and author of the book, Leading from Your Best Self. I'm delighted to be here. Let's take some time together to learn how to discover your own keys to confidence. Have you ever had one of those days when you felt all of your confidence drain out of you? You look ahead and have no idea how you're going to be able to solve the problem that lies before you. I'm in a small theater rehearsal room at Boston University's School for Fine Arts. I'm standing on a tight wire, 6 feet off the ground. I have a vice grip on the safety bar. I ease myself down until my feet are securely planted on the floor. The relief is overwhelming. I've been working full time at Boston University for 3 years, and longer than that since I was performing as a wire walker. I miss the excitement. This is why I accepted a job as the opening act for a holiday party in downtown Boston. 2,500 people. It was a stretch. I felt a pit in my stomach as I had just a short 8 weeks to get into performance shape. So I put a plan together 2 days a week in the gym, working on my calves, quads, glutes. Another 2 days a week working in a theater rehearsal room that had wires set up at two different heights. I avoided the higher wire until week 4, and it wasn't looking good. I needed help. Hey, just a moment before I continue. I see some chats going over. I want to make sure that I'm on the right page. Yes, people here. Thank you for welcoming me. So, as I said, I needed help. So I called my coach who taught me how to walk. We spent 3 days together. He reconnected me with my confidence. We laughed. He made the process fun. After we created a solid routine, he said, there'll come a time just before you're introduced when you'll feel this deep sense of dread and foreboding. We need to create a plan for that, which we did. I drove home feeling confident, ready for the challenge. It's showtime. I'm standing in the wings waiting for the MC to introduce me. And right on cue, it comes that feeling of dread. I'm consumed by a cold sweat. I see nothing but failure. Immediately, I go into my recovery routine. I take 3 deep breaths. I breathe in and breathe out sharply each time. I shake off the tension. I stand tall. I smile broadly. I spread my arms wide and picture a jubilant audience. I hear my name being introduced. I feel the joy. This was one of the best performances of my life. It was a culmination of years of trial and error, of successes and failures. So I understand what it takes to want something and struggle to get there. It was no easy path. Have you ever felt that way? When I started as a street performer right at Faneuil Hall Marketplace in Boston, I would watch other performers have an audience of over 400 people around them and effortlessly hold their attention. When they finished, they would pass the hat. That's how they got paid. It would be overwhelming. I'm talking hundreds of dollars. When I tried, I would get about 17 people to stop, and like the wind, they'd be gone. Only the lonely teenager would remain, looking for a way to kill some time. After an afternoon of hard work, I'd be lucky to have enough change for the sub ride home. Doesn't that sound like your worst nightmare? You work hard, you step up to present at work, and no one bothers to watch. They just sit there talking to each other or looking at their phones. How do you grab their attention? You walk away from this shaking your head and you say to yourself, I'm just not good at presentations. Have you ever felt that way? That's actually very common. The fear of public speaking is deeply rooted in our DNA. But guess what? It's also no longer true. You just need training. So, what did I do? I went to theater school and I got that training. I learned how to show up with confidence, how to build a routine, how to engage an audience. But it didn't happen right away. I remember being asked to do a cameo tap dance in a local production of Oklahoma. When it was my moment to shine, I was overcome with stage fright. I mean, I had saucers for eyes, deer in the headlights. I can still feel the embarrassment of that moment, but I never quit. It took perseverance. And this is the first key to confidence. I kept developing my routines, honing my skills. And then one day it all came together. I'm standing in the middle of about 400 people. As I bend down to pick up my hat, I noticed something drop away. It was this need to be liked, the need to cajole my audience into staying. I stood still, looked around, and noticed that the audience was just there waiting for me to start my routine. In that moment, a 2-year-old little girl with a pink princess dress and a blue balloon tied to her wrist wandered into the middle of the circle. The audience got very quiet. They were no longer watching me, but they were focused on the child. I saw her parents nervously waiting for something to happen. So I motioned to the audience to stay still and slowly moved towards the child. I put one finger under each of her arms, lifted them up, and said, ta-da! The audience burst into applause. I got the audience to the child to take a bow. Then I carefully returned her to her grateful parents. When I turned back to my audience, I saw something different. I saw delight and felt a deep sense of appreciation in their faces. We were truly connected. And that's the second key to confidence, connection. You can just see it. Oh, by the way, wait a minute. That's me. That is me on that rope with the fedora, undercover clown. Confidence is the bedrock upon which we build our lives and careers. For many of us, confidence starts with building technical skills. We become subject matter experts. Our confidence becomes stronger when we apply our knowledge towards solving complex problems. It's at these times when we feel in our best selves. But what happens when we need to step up to that next level of leadership? When we need to step onto that wire several feet higher? How do we get comfortable? How do we get there? How do we show up as the best version of ourselves when it matters the most? A couple of years ago, I'm at a leadership conference at upstate New York, historic stone meeting hall. I'm having a conversation with Hope, a highly competent woman early in her career. She turns to me and says, "Oh, the director in my office told me I need to improve my executive presence." As she shared this, I noticed that her shoulders slumped and her voice weakened. She looked lost. She loved her job, but this director was excessively hard on her, and it was destroying her confidence. She had a critical presentation to the leadership team in 2 weeks, and if it didn't go well, she'd be looking for another job. I paused and asked her to tell me about a time in her life when she felt most alive, engaged, and effective, the best version of herself. Immediately, a large smile came over her face. She said, "I play flute," and explained how she played in an award-winning high school marching band, a band so good that it consistently won at the Columbus Day Parade in New York City. I asked her to show me what she looked like when she got ready to play. As she stood up and she lifted her arms into a playing position, her presence was transformed. It was immediate. She stood tall and confident, exuded joy. She said that her voice felt open and strong because she was always taught to play to be heard. Enthusiastically, she said that she ran the flute section and always emphasized to her players it was not just when they were playing that they needed to stay in sync, but more importantly, when they were not playing and just marching, that they needed to maintain their focus. If the judges saw the slightest distraction, they would take a quarter point off here and there. It was the difference between winning and losing. Finally, she started to bounce around a bit and said that she always played a piece of music in her head to get her in the groove. As Hope spoke, she was no longer anxious. By getting back into her flute playing posture and visualizing herself performing, she sent a clear and positive message to herself, a sense memory. Her body and mind were in spirit, and spirit were in sync. It was a sense memory of confidence. This was her signature stance. I saw the changes happen before my eyes. And as I experienced her as being natural and powerful, she showed it. I reflected my impressions to her, encouraged her to take a few moments to get her into her playing posture first, to recall the feelings of confidence it gives her that she earned through discipline and practice. I said, you had a mindset of excellence with your flute players. You need to bring that same mindset and focus to your presentation. I also suggested that she find a piece of music that would get her in the groove just before she had to present. These were her 4 keys to confidence. Together, we created a plan of action to use these 4 keys in her preparation and rehearsals. 2 weeks later, I was delighted to hear that she nailed it. The director even came up to her and congratulated her, saying, "I always knew you had it in you." So when was a time when you felt in your best self, when you stood tall in your signature stance, when you were able to conquer the challenge before you, when you had a mindset of excellence, were in an energized and fluid emotional state, when you felt that sense of connection? This is how you can discover your own keys to confidence. Now, let me tell you about Kate. Kate is a senior leader at a European bank. She was a keen contributor, always surpassed her targets. However, she was continually passed over for promotion. Being on site at an important meeting, I saw it. Standing in a room of 50 of the top leaders of the organization, the CIO gave her a moment of recognition. Instantaneously, Kim's face blushed. She began to visibly shrink and made herself small. She was uncomfortable accepting compliments on her work in front of her colleagues. Have you ever felt that way? For Kate, by minimizing her own accomplishments, she was conveying that she wasn't capable or even interested in bigger things. This negatively influenced how others were experiencing her, and as a result, the senior leaders didn't see her as promotable. Turns out, Kate was a talented jazz singer. She sang with a jazz band on the weekends, and she relished the limelight and applause from her audience. So I asked her, does anyone ever come up to you, on the bandstand when you're on a break and compliment you on your performance? She puffed up a little bit and she said, yeah, they do. I said, well, how do you respond? I said, I smile, I look them right in the eye, and I say, thank you. Wow. I said, so what's different when you get compliments from an audience member than when you receive praise and recognition from your boss? She paused and said, I guess it's the feeling of being scrutinized by my colleagues. What if, I said, the next time you're recognized for your great work, take jazz singer Kate with you. She doesn't feel scrutinized by her audience. She enjoys their appreciation. Simply smile, look your boss right in the eye, and say, thank you. Now, for Kate, this was an epiphany. So if I came up to you today, or any of the speakers here that have been speaking, and I told you, hey, what a great job you did on stage today, would you simply say thank you? Or would you run about saying, oh, I messed up here, I forgot that line? Saying thank you. Everyone together, whisper it to yourself. Are you ready? On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you. I was first introduced to this concept of the best self while teaching workshops on leadership presence and storytelling at Harvard Business School. I learned about an assessment tool that was called the Reflected Best Self. It was created by the Center for Positive Organizations at the University of Michigan. It captures your strengths through someone else's experience of you. The Reflected Best Self has a firm foundation in psychology. Humanistic psychologist Carl Rogers believed that all human beings have one basic motive: to self-actualize, to fulfill their potential. Rogers believed that for a person to achieve self-actualization, he or she must be in a state of congruence. Congruence is a state of being when our real self, how we show up now, and our ideal self, how we envision ourselves showing up, our aspirational self, are in harmony and alignment. This is what we mean by being in our best self, when we show up as the best version. How do we get there? It starts by learning to appreciate what's truly remarkable about ourselves and the value we bring to our roles. Let's take another look. Let me tell you about Ray. Ray, IT manager in a global bank. Ray had a boss who knew he had a lot more to contribute to the team, yet Ray would show up around the management team table and would slump in his chair. When I met Ray, I was stunned. He stood 6'3". He explained to me that he was a former international martial arts champion. Seriously? But he got injured and could no longer fight at that level. So he packed his former self in a trunk, stowed it away in an attic, and went back to school for IT. He was really smart. He got a great job. However, when he sat at that management table, he felt uncomfortable and out of his element. Thus, he began to shrink inside of himself, and it showed. Classic imposter syndrome. As an exercise, I asked him, Ray, would you sit in this chair as though you were in the finals of an international tournament and you're about to step onto the mat for that last fight? As he sat down, I saw him slowly relax into himself and get large. I mean, very large. I asked him how he felt, and he said, like a fighter. When he fought, he didn't struggle with his self-worth. Win or lose, he was showing up large, and in his words, to leave it all on the mat. Ray needed to reclaim the part of himself that he left behind and show up fully at his business meetings with the same presence and mindset that he had as a fighter, and put his best ideas on the table without holding back. But how? I asked him if he ever shared a story with his leader or his colleagues. He said he hadn't because he didn't feel it was appropriate. He wanted to be evaluated by his new set of skills. I said, I know your boss, and he has an amazing story, and he would love to hear yours. 2 weeks later, he told me he shared a story with his boss, who was impressed and immediately set up a story sharing activity with the full team. His teammates were amazed at Ray's story. They also shared his own stories. It brought the entire team closer together and allowed Ray to step fully into this new chapter of his life, fully integrated. Do you see how this works? We need to take all of our experience with us. Don't be like Ray and store any part of yourself in the attic. Bring all the different parts of yourself with you. This is how we tap into our deep-seated confidence. Now, you might be thinking, Rob, I'm not a musician or a martial artist. I don't have the catch the baby out of the window story. Rediscovering your best self is not about being the hero. It's about recalling those experiences when you felt most at ease and effective, when you were in your groove and things were naturally falling into place. For some of you, this might be when you're coaching your kid's soccer team, right? You're leaning in and they're all looking up at you. Or when you put on your chef's hat and apron and cook up your favorite dessert for your best friends and serving it with panache. Or when you're fully engrossed in your favorite hobby, hopping off your bike after an energizing ride, or finding your stride during your daily walk. So if you'd like to learn more about how you can show up as the best version of yourself, let's start a conversation. I offer private executive coaching. At MIT, I've been doing this for years. I do it on my own. I've been working with one leader in a biotech firm here in Massachusetts for over 5 years. She's from Bulgaria, and we work on preparing her for investor calls where she needs to be clear and concise in her language. Clarity is critical. We meet several times a month? $6,000 a month. Now, I understand that's a heavy lift. but we can explore coaching, or I can share with you a number of resources. Let's check these out. I'd love to, and I'd be glad to share with you my Best Self 360 at absolutely no cost. It's a self-administered tool to get feedback on how you show up in specific situations as the best version of yourself. You conduct your own 360. It'll provide you with very powerful insights. If you're ready to dive in a little bit deeper, my introductory self-paced course titled Foundations of Executive Presence is perfect. The course will introduce you to the key concepts of presence, available for just under $300. It's great for people looking to get promoted, up their present skills and presentation capabilities. It allows you to dip your toes into the key aspects of executive presence. Now, if you're looking for something transformational and truly move the needle, I offer an extended learning experience entitled Effortless Executive Presence. This is my flagship 16-week program, normally priced just under $3,500 per person. For attending the session, I can offer you a 25% discount, a little over $2,600. So let's get that call set up. Use the QR code, or if you see my details there, and I guarantee, even if you're not sure if it's a fit, let's set up that conversation. I'm positive you'll find value in the conversation. Thank you very much for your time today, everyone. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, Rob. Thank you so much for your valuable time, Rob. Yes. Yeah,
Now, I'm
may I
wondering
audible,
if anyone
Rob?
has any questions, but I can't seem to hear anything. So I'm not sure if that's going to be possible.
Hello,
Show of hands, did anyone actually hear me? Because I wasn't quite
Rob.
sure. Yes, excellent, good.
Yeah, may I audible?
I'm going to switch my camera over here so that I can see if there's any, maybe there's comments in the space over here.
Cam object.
What's one practical tip to improve presence in high stakes meetings? The most practical thing you can do in a high stakes situation is to maintain composure. Take a deep breath, breathe out deeply. Look whoever it is that you're speaking to right in the face, just like Kate did. Take a breath in, breathe out as you speak out. I think, let me see, am I still on stage? Yeah, let me see if there's another. What role does storytelling play in building confidence? Not only will storytelling build confidence in yourself, it'll build confidence in others in you. It'll inspire confidence. The certain type of storytelling that I like to teach is direct narrative storytelling, where you are the central figure. You're the main character. You have a worthy goal. There's a challenge you have to overcome. You take an action, and through that outcome, you learn a lesson, a value. You share that. When people see that, they feel what you feel, they see what you see, they get you from the inside out. Let me see if there's any other questions. How can leaders develop an authentic executive presence? Authenticity is an interesting concept. It starts by being comfortable in your own skin, understanding your values, your internal motivators, and finding your voice. Finding a voice that is comfortable, confident, relaxed, and decisive. Well, thank you all. I really appreciate your time today. I wish you the best in all that you do. Oh, wait a minute. Here we have a Sophia. One more here. What's one way to stay grounded under pressure while presenting? As I said earlier, feel your feet. Take a deep breath in. When you're presenting, develop a breathe in, speak out cadence. So when you speak out, as you breathe out, it adds power and volume to your voice. And then stop on a complete thought. Take a pause, breathe in again, and then begin to speak out. It's powerful, but it does take practice. It is a technique, a theater technique. You share an example of a leader who's transformed through storytelling. Yes, as a matter of fact, I coach the president of a local bank here in Boston. And I just want to make sure that I have enough time. So I'll keep going until I get yanked off, and that'll work. I helped him prepare for a keynote to 500 credit risk officers. We worked on some theater techniques. He showed me an introduction that he was going to make. And that introduction was behind a podium. And he said, I want to, and it was 2 minutes of thank yous. I said, Daryl, this is not going to work. We had worked on a story. I said, why don't you start with your story? He said, fine. We practiced it. I said, but I don't want you behind the podium. I want you in front of the audience. So you have 45 minutes of presentation. You're not going to memorize this. So print it out on paper. But you need somewhere to put it. You're not going to carry that. Put it in a 3-hole binder, 3-ring binder. And then have something that you could put the binder on. So he said, yeah, my son plays string bass. And so he brought the music stand and the binder. He walked onto stage, put the music stand down, opened the binder up. What do you think the audience was thinking? What's going on? It doesn't matter what they were thinking. They grabbed his attention. This is what he said. And I can finish on this story. My wife and I are getting out of a cab in downtown Nashville. It's 10:30 at night. We just got back from the Grand Ole Opry. Even if you're not a country music fan, you got to go. It's amazing. 10:30 at night at Honky Tonk Row. The bars are open. The music is spilling out. There's hundreds of people in the street. My wife says, honey, can we go to get something to eat? I said, really? It's late. She goes, yes, I'm really hungry. I said, fine, anything but barbecue. We push our way through through the crowd, and we see this sign, Mario's Italian restaurant. Let's go. We step up, it's crowded, but it doesn't look like any restaurant we've ever seen. The waitress comes up, sits us down in one of those booths that has, the red vinyl, but with duct tape. We look at each other and so, do you really want to come here? I said, yeah, it's packed. How bad could it be? We order the margarita pizza, the easiest thing on the menu. It takes 20 minutes to get here. When it's served, it's on one of those big platters. It didn't look like any pizza we ever saw in our life. It tasted like cardboard. We didn't get sick. It was an acceptable risk. And then he said, and that's what I'm here to talk to you about today. Community banking is about acceptable risk. So what Daryl did, he grabbed the attention of the audience. He drew them in through a powerful story, personal story, and then made a bridge from the lesson he learned in the story to the key topic he was going to talk about today. Perfect storytelling. Thank you all. See if there's anything else here. Good. Melinda, can I keep going? Should I keep going here?
Yes, Rob,
I'm still live. I'm on as well. 28. I have 2 minutes left. So, yes, here's a second story by the same person. He hired me to come in and work with his entire team for a full day. Halfway through the day, I see him heading to the exit. So, Daryl, where are you going? He says, oh, I'm going to the North Shore of Boston. We just acquired a small bank. I'm going to talk to the people there. I said, have you ever been in a situation where you were acquired? He said, oh, got it. Thank you very much. I needed the reminder. He came back with a big smile on his face. He said, how'd it go? He said, it couldn't have gone any better. I stood up in front of this audience, this group of 30 people, and I said, can only imagine what you must be feeling right now, having been newly acquired. But I think I have a clue. You see, 15 years ago, I was in your very same seat. I was part of a small bank. I walk into work the next day, and I'm greeted by a man in a blue uniform and a police uniform with a brown box and a pink slip. He gives them to me, and he said, good luck. I'm standing in the parking lot with my brown box and a pink slip. I have 2 kids under the age of 4 a big mortgage. I have no idea what I'm going to do. Said, right now, you're one of us. You're part of our bank now. If you have a question about your new role, come and talk to me. My door is always, always open. He said, after that, 2 people came up to him and said, Daryl, thank you very much for what you said. Up until now, we didn't think bankers were human beings. That he became an authentic, not only he was an authentic leader, he was already an authentic leader, but he became an authentic communicator as a leader. That's the difference. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate your time on it. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.